Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Tea Phillips. She is a founder, engineer, inventor, and we'll learn from her how she turned her grandmother's pain into an innovative medical device while still in engineering school. We'll learn from her how resilience, purpose, and practical action can help you turn bold ideas into real impact, no matter your starting point. Welcome to the show, Tia.
Thank you for having me, AJ. I'm happy to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Tia. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about how one can invent boldly, invent and build with purpose. We'll talk all of this. But before that, let's understand a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Yeah. I'd be happy to give a little intro. So I'm Taya. I'm the founder of ATS Innovations and inventor of the Metaflex glove. This is Metaflex. So it's a compression glove that has resistance bands in the back of the fingers that are adjustable with this Velcro on each of the digits for the purpose of keeping your fingers extended so that when you're in motion, you're strengthening, when you're at rest, you're stretching, always a really gentle compression. And this is something that I made for arthritis. Back to my grandmother, for people like her, she was really struggling with it, to help them improve their mobility and regain their independence at home because I found that a lot of people can't afford to go to the doctor and aren't reminded to do their exercises, which are time consuming, like remembering to do like 15 reps every day. So I just wanted to make it easier for people to manage hand conditions. And I invented it while I was studying mechanical engineering at Tennessee Tech University.
Absolutely, absolutely. You showed the glove, we'll understand the glove much, much better now. So tell us, what was this? What was your grandmother's problem? What was the difficulty that she was facing? What, how did you look at that difficulty? And then how did you go about building something so that, people know, okay, this is what it is. For firstly, your journey in terms of the building part, looking at the pain problem, and also as a business person, how did you go about it? And a lot of people who might know about the gloves from this particular show or from anywhere else you will be, talking about, I want to understand from that perspective how they can best make use of their invention and buy it from you in any part of the world that they are in.
So I had two other co-founders, and we identified the problem being people with arthritis weren't compliant with their exercise programs and couldn't afford to go to the doctor. And during customer discovery, so you identify a problem and then you start talking to people who have this problem. And one of the people that had that problem was my grandma. And so I talked to her, and she told me one of the ways that she was solving the problem is, or one of the problems she had was her hand was closing up at night. And so she would put a tennis ball in her hand and a sock over top of it to sleep to keep her hand from closing up, which is one of the things that Metaflex can be used for, to keep the fingers extended, and also taking it a step further by offering compression to help with pain and stiffness. So you wake up in the morning and your joints are moving freely and your hands is extended and you feel better. But I also noticed that she was not doing things that she loved to do as much, like gardening and knitting and sewing. Like, she used to constantly be active, and because of the pain in her hands, she wasn't doing those things. So I felt it really personally. And I knew how big of an impact this product would have on her life and the life of others like her. So I had to make it happen. And it was a very difficult journey, developing this and then getting it to market. It's a medical device. So I'm in the US. I had to go through FDA registration, and I had to go through it without, a lot of funding. So I spent months just like reading and learning and figuring out how I needed to classify this medical device. And with my engineering background, it's kind of just a degree in problem solving. So taking it step by step. Yeah, so I think if you have an idea, it's a lot of research and a lot of work, and it's really difficult work, and you fail a lot, and you have to reframe your mindset for resilience and seeing failure not as failure but as learning, and it's a lesson, and then you can pivot and go in a different direction, but it's constantly learning and pivoting over and over and over again, and it's way harder than it should be. I feel like there should be more programs and more funding available to people who have ideas and want to change the world. But if you don't give up and you surround yourself with mentors and people who know things that you don't know, like for me, I brought on marketing and salespeople, doctors, and hand therapists to help guide me towards eventually bringing this product to market. And we've been on the market for 2 years in the US on my website, metaflexglove.com. And I've got people that leave reviews saying it's a miracle and they can finally sleep at night, or like, thank you for helping my husband. So it's been a really difficult but ultimately rewarding journey.
Absolutely. So to understand that better, what does this Metaflex do? You put your hand, especially people with arthritis and anything else that it helps in?
So Metaflex is helpful for people with arthritis, but also people with carpal tunnel. So and athletes. So it's had a bigger impact than I expected it to have. People with Parkinson sleep in the glove, Dupuytren's, trigger finger. And so it's a really gentle compression, which is the same for lots of different compression gloves that are already on the market and have been for since like the 70s or 50s, even earlier than that. Compression technology has been around for a long time, but what I did is put these adjustable resistance bands sewn into the fingers, and then these tabs are adjustable with these Velcro strips that mimic the tendons. So you can place each digit anywhere you need to, because everyone's hand's different, everyone's needs are different. It's even on the thumb. And then it has this adjustable wrist strap. And so for athletes, they can wear it to do their grip strengthening exercises anywhere, on or off the field, on or in or out of the gym. For people with arthritis, you're doing your exercises during your day. Like you grab your water bottle and you're working against the resistance bands. You're swiping on your phone and you're working against it. So the compression is good for pain, it's good for muscle recovery, and it's just increasing circulation, bringing more oxygen to the tissue. It's really healing and pain relieving. And then the bands are stretching when you're at rest, which is really good. A lot of hand conditions you get from overuse, and then your hand curls up and it starts to get tight in here, and then it's painful to open. So when you're using your hands a lot, you really want to be stretching afterwards. And so this gives you that stretching without you having to like remember to do it. Your hands are more extended than they would be normally after use if you weren't wearing something like this. Yeah, and I patented it and it's mine. And we've got a few
Absolutely. So
different
you
versions coming out too.
2 different versions for what?
A few different versions. I've got, I don't know, 8 in my notebook. But we've got version 2 of Metaflex coming out in August. And it's just, I've been selling this for a few years and I've gotten a lot of user feedback, and I'm making little tweaks just to make it a little better. I constantly want to be improving the product and making sure it fits the needs of our users. And then I've just had dreams and ideas, like since I started developing it, of other ways that we can use this same technology and just make a different version of it. So I won't spoil it, but if you follow us on social media, Metaflex Glove, or watch our website, sign up for our emails, you'll get notifications when these new lines drop. And I'm really excited for what we've got coming out in the next few years.
Absolutely. And my question to you, Tia, is to were you surprised that the market which has got such big players and everyone into the same, arthritis and every sort of product, they did not have any of this product which was very much, that was needed to solve a big pain problem for millions and millions of people? Were you
Yeah,
surprised?
I was surprised. When I was doing my patent research, I was like, no way, someone's made this before, but no one had made it before. We were the first ones, and so we filed the patents and we made the product, and people are like, wow, oh my gosh. And it's so simple. But being an engineer, making something simple is like what you strive to do. You want your product to be as simple as possible because it's less likely to fail. It's easier for the user to use it properly. So I was like, this idea is so simple and no one's done it before, but no one had done it before. So I'm really grateful and I feel lucky that I fell into it. Though after having, I mean, ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody has ideas. But getting it there, like you have to really, really care about what you're doing. If I didn't have that personal connection to my grandmother, if I hadn't seen someone that I love lose their mobility, I don't think I would have done this because it's so difficult. My co-founders that helped me invent this, they didn't want to do entrepreneurship, and I think it might be because they didn't have that personal connection to it. They thought, I mean, it's an idea, but I felt like this is changing people's lives, and I just felt like I had to do it. I felt responsible to bring it to the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now onto your, business journey, entrepreneurial journey, challenges. What were the challenges that you faced? How was it? How was that journey? Were people supportive, not supportive? Did you get funds? When did the funds come, or they did not?
Money was the hardest thing. Money was the hardest thing, but everybody thought I was crazy too. Um, before I invented Metaflex when I was in engineering school, and then I graduated the same year that we established the company. We started winning pitch competitions, and so I saw like people will give me money. People like this idea. It's going somewhere, and I have to bring it to the world. So, but I graduated the same year I made it, and I didn't have any money. So I had to take a job. And I had been working really, really hard to get a really good job. So I was working as a contractor for the Department of Energy, nice, cushy government job. And I did that for 3 years and I saved up a bunch of money. I saved up what I thought was going to be enough money. It was not enough. It's never enough money. You need so much money. But I quit my job and my parents thought I was crazy. They're like, what is she doing? This is security. This is like where people they get this job and they stay there forever because it's good. It's good benefits and all of that. And I quit and without with like this idea and like some samples and some manufacturing, and the manufacturing ended up being not the manufacturing I needed to go with because they weren't registered with the FDA and they needed these funds and I didn't have the money for them. So I had to do a lot of research, make a lot of calls, and it took me a year. I quit my job with samples from a manufacturer that could make it, and a year after I predicted I would be on market is when I was actually on market. It took way longer than I expected it to. It was way more expensive than I thought it would be. And I thought I have a patent. I'm an engineer trained by like the Department of Energy. And before that, when I was still in school, I was doing work for the Department of Defense. And like I'm smart and I have these credentials and people are gonna invest in me. Like duh. It took me years to raise money. It was so difficult to get money for my company. And I finally did. And my first investor was in the same city that I went to college, in the same city that I started talking about Metaflex and I invented it. And so my local community has been incredibly supportive. But it did take me a long time and a lot of heartache to to get people to bet on me. And once they bet on me, it took me months to get my second person to bet on me. And you have to raise a lot of money. So it's been really, really difficult to get people to fund this, but I closed my funding round like 2 months ago, and I raised over $500,000, almost six, to fund this. And now I've got my first full-time hire coming on next week, my marketing person, and she's just brilliant and has already helped us so much. And now I'm hiring for social media, and the team is growing. And I mean, the glove has been helping people ever since I got it on the market. So like the product has been working. It's just getting the people in the business and having the money to spend on marketing so that people outside of Tennessee know what I'm doing, and then so that I can start to expand into other countries like India. I would love to sell gloves in India because people all across the world are dealing with this hand problem, and Metaflex has been able to help them. And so that's my goal, is to get Metaflex on the hands of everybody across the world, and I'm gonna get it done. It's just it's taken longer and it's more expensive than I initially predicted, but you live and you learn.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you consider are your superpowers? One, two, three. What is it?
Oh goodness. Resilience. I mean, or my grandfather would call it stubbornness, probably. He's like, you're like your grandma, you're stubborn. And I'm like, thank you. Yeah, so resilience. With the engineering background, I'm really good at strategy and problem solving, and I think I also have a bit of creativity, and I can like see this vision of where we're going. So all of that leads to my role now, and like being the CEO of ATS is setting the vision, telling people where we're going, leading them there. Leadership is something that I'm still learning. I haven't led too many teams. I did when I was working as an engineer for other people, but leading your own is like you have to find the people. So I have to go out and hire and like see where the gaps are. And there's a lot that I'm still learning, but setting the course, I think I'm good at strategizing and seeing how all the pieces fall together, and then having the audacity to just go for it. I'd say those are my big three.
How do you look at setbacks? I would not want to use the word failure. Some people, I want to understand setbacks. How do you look at them?
Well, that's changed over the years. It's been really, really difficult. As someone who has performed on a high level for a while, setbacks are very difficult to deal with when you're used to, doing things well. And it's taken a mindset shift to, again, just like see that as a lesson and take yourself out of it and not take it personally when there's a setback. Like, yes, you made the decision and you did these things and they didn't work, but that's not a reflection on you. Like, if the great inventors of our time had like given up on their fifth or 50th attempt, we wouldn't have electricity and lights and computers and all of these things that we need to function the way that society is functioning right now. So it's just trial and error, and you have to accept that there are going to be setbacks. And if you're doing something new, you don't want to invest too much money into like this first idea. You want to like do a little bit trying it out, and so that if it doesn't work, you're not like too heavily invested and it's easier to move on. But sometimes you invest a lot of money in something and it doesn't work, and you have to accept that and pivot. It's just constantly pivoting and understanding that it's not like you're not a failure. It's just part of the learning process, and the growth process is, it's not a straight line. You're like constantly zigging and zagging and taking steps back and moving in a different direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me understand. now this particular thing. You are a very young inventor, young CEO, and somebody young who will be, going into this future for a long, long time. How do you look at the world from all these different aspects? As an inventor, where do you want to go? As a CEO, where do you want to go? And a young person, where do you want to see your world going? What role would you want to play in that world?
Thank you. Um, as an inventor, I have so many ideas. I've got notebooks full of ideas. I know what my next company is going to be. And it isn't like, it wasn't the first idea of my next company, but I can see patterns and I see the way that the markets are changing and I see gaps. And that's taken practice and also a lot of creativity. I like to just, uh, sit at home and paint or draw or go out in nature and just like sit on a rock or touch a tree and ground myself and let myself just be in that present moment. And when you do that, I find that you have a lot of good ideas. I'm just like constantly thinking of new things, and maybe that's just the way my brain is made, but I'm inventing new things. Absolutely. It's so much fun for me. And so I'm never going to stop that. As a CEO, um, I just want to grow into a better leader and be able to support my employees and give them a good life while they're working, and then give them a life outside of work too. Give them the space that they need to do whatever they want to do with their lives. I don't want them working 80 hours a week or anything like that. I'm trying to build a really healthy work culture for everybody at ATS, and anything else I do in the future too. And personally, I just want to travel. I want to see more of the world. I've never been to India, and I want to go to India so badly. I love Indian food, and the closest I've had to real Indian food is when I went to London, and it was phenomenal. And I really like to have some of that, and to see the architecture. I just want to travel the world and see what other humans have done before me and be inspired by them, and meet people and learn about their lives and um, just I think I like learning and experiencing new things. So really traveling the world is a big one for me. So
When you
that's my
travel the
goal.
world, when you travel the world, you'll also see a lot of problems also, especially
Yeah.
healthcare. And you have tested success in this particular product. How would you want to look at healthcare? You talk about compassion from corporations, responsibility of the corporations to solve the user's problem with compassion. It hasn't yet. That is why Metaflex came in. I want to your understanding on this part of compassion and corporations and healthcare.
Thank you for this question, because I get really worked up talking about it. I grew up in a rural area without a lot of money, and going to the doctor is expensive and scary. And it's scary because it's expensive. That's what people don't get. Like, it's not the fear of doctors, it's the fear of the bill. And I have personally cried over the fact that I needed to go to the doctor and I didn't know if I had the copay, but like I needed this for my health, and it's terrifying. Our healthcare system in America specifically, because that's the one that I know, is so messed up. Um, it shouldn't be run like a for-profit institution, my opinion. I think healthcare is a human right. Also, that's why Metaflex is so affordable. I had people, everybody tells me to raise my prices, and we have a good margin, and it's a viable business. But I could sell this glove for as much money as, you know, the market would take. And there are people with a lot of money that would pay just about anything to relieve their pain. But that's not the way that I run a business. I run a business to help people. And yeah, so Metaflex is affordable and effective healthcare. Effective is another big part of it. Some companies will sell just about anything just to make a buck. And we sell things that people actually need, that work. Um, that work as they are advertised. There's no false advertising. We're not going to claim anything that we can't help you with just to make a dollar off of you, because that's um yeah, it's wrong. And yeah, so we very much at ATS lead with compassion, and with our hearts, and for doing what's right for people. Yeah, my grandmother had so many health conditions. Most of them were caused by the stress of being poor, her chronic conditions. Um, and she couldn't afford to go to the doctor. And that's kind of why we made Metaflex, is so people who can't afford to go see a physician over and over and over again can manage these diseases at home and these chronic conditions with one small payment, instead of having to pay, you know, hundreds and hundreds to go to a doctor who's got a million other patients to see in that day, and they really don't care, you know, like they're not really looking into the root cause, because really the problems that you have are caused by a million other things, and it's really difficult for them to figure out what's going on, and they just don't have the time. Our healthcare system in America is absolutely broken unless you're rich. And it was made like that by design, and it absolutely needs to be fixed. And ATS is one of those companies that's come out to fix part of it, and reinvent healthcare in our own way. So we're going to continue to create innovations that help people feel better and that they can afford.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well put here. So, as an inventor and as somebody who is now in healthcare, you talk about the future of healthcare in wearable tech. Tell us a bit about that. How do you think this whole thing going forward about a lot of other things also?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of devices on the market right now that people aren't using, and the problem with that is having to remember to do it. So when we make it into wearables, like Metaflex is a grip strengthening wearable. Instead of doing your putty or those spring resistors, you wear this glove and you're working out while you're doing your daily activities. And we can see it in a few other places. There are jackets that I've seen that measure electrical things that are happening, and I'm not a doctor. They got electrical components in them, and they give you things. And I think there's more like that. You can see it in not only things that strengthen the body, but things that offer additional support, like exoskeletons. But I think, and there's also, I mean, you think about nicotine patches that are helping people get off nicotine, and that's a wearable. So I think the future of healthcare is wearable tech, because it increases compliance with whatever activity that you need to do for your health. um, and it makes it easier to administer medicines. Um, so Metaflex is part of that, and I'm really proud to be part of that innovation community. And we've got a few more wearables in the pipeline that'll help with more than just hands. So I'm excited to be just a part of that community.
And perhaps this whole thing will make it much more affordable for people also, because there will be very mass adoption. Common people who will invent and come into the marketplace, common person like you, they will make sure that these corporations, the new world corporations, will be corporations with compassion, not like the old days.
I think so too. A lot of the people that I have met that are about my age, that are inventing things, they're definitely doing so from a place of compassion and care for other people, because we've seen growing up that in our society where you can charge anything for whatever, um, when people can't afford the thing is when there's a lot of problems. You're not really helping people. You're just making money, and it feels dirty to not help people and just make money. So I agree. I think the future is bright. And when we additionally, with the introduction of the internet, which has been so recent, it really has, like, it feels like we've always had it, but we have not always had it. We're finally able to talk to people from all over the world and talk to people with different lived experiences than ours. And I think that's also going to generate a lot of compassion across the world and understanding of other people, and just bring us all closer together.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's nice to see the world changing for the better. It's been a long time, and the idea for change has the time for that idea of change that has come in, and it's nice to see. But I want to understand from you. You are very young, achieved patent in your name about for your device. How do you handle all this success, if we call it that way? There is so much for you to achieve, but if we call it success as of now, how do you see it? Do you feel pressured? Do you feel anything beyond that? Imposter syndrome, some may want to call. How is your journey understanding of all these things?
It's really heavy. It's really heavy. Um, but I came here to do heavy stuff. And I I feel like I've been asked this question about imposter syndrome before, and I'm like, I've never felt it. But it's really like when I feel it and I feel like, oh my gosh, people invested in my company, and now I have to take that money and put it in the right places so that it makes more money, and then also it has to help people, and then also my employees have to have a livable wage, and then also I need to make sure I get all of these other patents, and when are we going to enter these other markets, and when am I going to launch my next versions, like what's the right thing to do. And then I remember other companies have been ultra successful. Apple exists, and Steve Jobs is just some guy, and I'm just some girl. Like, we're just people. And if it's humanly possible, why is it not humanly possible for me? So I feel those things, and then I think it's just like you have to give yourself like an it feels wrong to be that confident, but that's how they get there. I swear that's how they get there. You have to have the audacity. So recently I read a book. I don't have it with me. It was the book was titled How to Make a Few $1 billion by a guy called Brad Jacobs. And he had started a lot of companies. And I thought, I need to read that, because if he has the audacity to write that title, and if I have the audacity to want to make $1 billion, then I need to know what's going on. And that's what his one of his points was, is like having the audacity to set big goals and then actually take the steps to achieve those big goals. It's just saying, I'm going to do it, and then actually doing it. And those are the people that get it done. You I feel like you fail, and failure, you stop doing this thing that could be ultra successful when you decide that you can't do it, because you can do it. People have done it before. You can do it. You just have to study what they've done, and learn. So I have a lot of advisors and a lot of mentors that I meet with regularly, and I tell them what's going on, and they give me advice. And sometimes it's advice that I take, and sometimes it's advice that I leave. But I'm trying to constantly learn, so that I can achieve these things, and reading books from people who have done the things that I want to do before, and learning about their mindset. I'd recommend that book, because there's a lot of lessons in there that I'd like to talk about, but that's the number one thing, is it has been done before, so why not you?
Absolutely. So you talk about a couple of $1 million, $1 billion here. If you get $1 billion, what will you do? As of today, suppose you sleep, morning you got $1 billion. What will you do with that?
I'd probably build libraries and hospitals. I'd pay off my parents' mortgage, everybody in my family. I would find a way to invest it because I don't need $1 billion. Like, are you kidding me? But the people that have that money have the opportunity to change the world and to help a lot of people. Like, I don't think it would take $1 billion to end world hunger. There's a lot of good that can be done with money, and you see it as dirty, but it's just like some people have used it in a dirty way. It's just a tool. So I want to get the tools to do as much good as I can in this lifetime. So if I had $1 billion, I would do a lot of good, and then I'd disappear, and no one would know. Where's Taya? Oh no, she's dyed her hair. She looks different now. You can't find her. She's on some beach in some forest somewhere. Um, yeah, that's what I would do. I would try to do some good with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so much to learn about all this from you, Tia, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn more about you, about the product, about the different versions that are about to come, and so many things that you are about to achieve in this, coming days and months and years. So, for all those people who would want to know all this from you, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn would be good. Tea Phillips on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there. You can follow me. And let me know if you have any questions. If you want to come on your podcast, I'd be happy to talk. Yeah, I have a lot of mentors, and I'd be happy to help anybody else that I can.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me, AJ, and letting me dream.